right, everybody, I'm going to call the November 4th East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we'll start. We have Phyllis Berger, Ryan Williams, Doreen Ryan. I'm Kristen Chantrell, Don Finster, Greg McIntyre, John Vilcek. If you'd like to join us, you can be seated tonight as an alternate. We have a spot for you. Yep, come on up. Then we have Gary Gashel, our Inland Wetlands agent, and Janet Sutherland, our recording secretary. To start, let's see, we're going to start with additions to the agenda. So first, the 2025 meeting and site walk schedule. So we need a motion to add the item as item A to new business. Would anybody like to make a motion to add the 2025 meeting and site walk schedule to
I make a motion that we add the 2025 site walk and regular meeting to the schedule.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For our next addition to the agenda, we have 3 Scott Road, Richard W. Radowski, applicant and owner, application for determination of permitted non-regulated activity for the installation of an in-ground fiberglass pool and concrete patio. Do I hear a motion to add the item that I just stated to new business?
Make a motion to add 3 Scott Road residence to by applicant Richard Radowski for the installation of an in-ground fiberglass pool to the agenda.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So then we're going to start with public delegation. Public delegations is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved wetland permits and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, referrals, applications subject to decision by the commission. A public hearing or litigation may not be discussed. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? Okay. We have no public hearings today. Next would be our acceptance of our regular meeting minutes of October 1st, 2024.
I make a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of October 1st, 2024.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'll have to abstain.
Okay, Greg's abstaining. We don't see Ann here today.
No.
Yeah, we switched. Yeah, it could be, I know. Keep her on her toes. Okay, so then we're going to move to new business. First would be Lakeshore.
Can I recluse myself for this initial one?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But to leave the room?
I would recommend so.
Okay. There we go.
All right, we have Lakeshore Drive, Giants Neck Beach Association, Incorporated 1941. Applicant, Giants Neck Improvements Club, Incorporated owner. Application to capture and redirect street runoff along Lakeshore Drive to stop the erosion occurring along road shoulder and down the embankment.
Good evening. First of all, let me apologize for any misunderstanding about the 1st of October. I had asked Gary to inform you of our intent to request a non-regulated activities resolution on this particular item, and I had no intention of applying for a permit at that time. You now have a fully applied permit and a full-size rendering of the engineer drawings. Initially, this started as an item brought to our attention by Lisa Doggart, who's here today, for rain gardens, resolving an issue we've long had in that area of loss of soil at the road site where the water runs down and it's actually damaging the road and it's making the property unusable. And It's encouraging people to park their vehicles there. They think it's a parking lot because it's nothing but gravel. After several years of different discussions, we've evolved this rain garden solution into basically a catchment design, which you see. It was presented to the engineers as well as Gary in September for just preliminary review. Our original contractor's proposal comes from Beers, Spencer Beers. And we expect him to do it, but we are going out for quote just to make sure we're on base. I don't believe there's anything that needs to be explained other than once we've asked any questions you may have. Lisa's might want to explain her planting strategies. Other than some raspberries for me, I don't really care what they. So, what do you folks need to know from this proposal?
Water's going to go to the same place it goes now, right?
Yeah, basically with the additional plantings, it's going to provide a vegetative buffer, stormwater, run through first. So the idea here is it's going to slow down the runoff. We'll get some infiltration as well as biouptake of that runoff. Hopefully stabilize its currently.
So we're not curbing it, we're just adding in fill and some plantings.
Correct. So we're creating a curved situation.
Yeah.
There is a berm, but the berm does not exceed the street level except at the upper end where there's very little runoff. And that's more for the plantings as well as perhaps restriction to people who want to park their vehicles as well as contractors who always park their tractors and trucks all over that area.
I think last month the question was, where would the runoff be redirected? So I think you're answering that by saying it's not going to be so much redirected, but it's going to the same location, but distributed more slowly, and maybe absorption through plants and material products.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, and by doing so, the downslope of this device will allow for possibly something to grow there, which would be beneficial to hold the soil and to, in a year like this, we didn't even mow that area.
Yeah.
Our gardener said, I'm not mowing that rock anymore, so.
I haven't been in that area in quite a while, but are there other houses and developments that are nearby this runoff area?
Across the street.
Across the street?
Right.
Okay. And they would not be impacted by the redistribution?
Oh, no water will remain on the road. There, as I mentioned, all of this area will simply remain below street grade as those elevation sites show. It's not a cure-all. If rain events exceed 4 or 5 inches, we all know what happens. The idea is that we'll have enough soil and plantings in there to prevent any further erosion beyond what would normally occur in a flood.
Right. A reasonable rainfall.
Right.
Right.
So this is the area, John. You see Griswold Road here. Zoom in, talking about this area just to the north of the cursor. To this area in here.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
The engineers were notified and given drawings prior to this full permit. And their comment was, and I got to get the gentleman's name, Alex. Alex's concern is with any catchment or with any kind of sediment basin, whether it's a leach field or whatever, at some point his concern is that normal eutrophication of plant material will cause that upper surface to have to be reworked. My estimate, because there's no trees in the area, would be not less than 25 to 30 years, because there really is no planting there. If it were under the woods, it'd be a whole different story. So that was his only concern, but he agreed that there's nothing to be concerned. That is a street right of way, and that's why he was notified.
Does anyone have any questions?
Pretty cut and dry application.
And Lisa? Well, I believe there was plantings. What?
Are they native plantings? My only question. Anybody else? When are you planning on, when would you do the work?
We strictly abide by the no work between, I wrote it down so I don't forget. It's the amphibian breeding season, which is what, April through July? So since we've basically lost most of the season, of course with this crazy weather, we may have an opportunity to do the base work prior to winter. But that would be covered with basically the grass mats that are reinforced. And then, but no, you can't put topsoil in at this point in the year. The topsoil would occur in late spring if we could get it in, but probably not. It'll probably have to happen after July 1st.
All right, so with all that, Judy here, anybody would like to make a motion to accept or deny the application?
I move that we accept the application as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's everybody?
Not, but actually technically vote on it until the next month.
Right,
Oh.
I understand.
Remain on the agenda for 15 days, then you accepted the application.
Okay.
65 days from your decision, by the end of the
Okay.
So no surprise, we'll do it next month.
Will that be similar to my my permit for my other regulated activity, which is my other pond, which is site on map 4.1 lot 55, which is a non-regulated activity.
The other item on the agenda, yes?
No, I'm wondering will that be listed as a permitted non-regulated activity?
Work on the other one.
No, yeah, well, that's the one that I have for the upper pond. Our zoning reviewed this as a gardening issue or landscaping. And,
With your current.
right.
Yes.
And so I'm just wondering what kind of permit we'll be receiving.
You'll see the local inland wetlands permit,
Okay. Permitted non-regulated.
that'd be a permitted regulated activity. That's-
Yeah, there's
the
drainage
determination
involved.
last meeting, and it would require. The consensus, I think, was that because there was no fee, you might as well make a permit. So you made a permit, and they could just issue it. Versus determining that it was not regulated.
Okay. It just does not seem to be a regulated activity. That's all. Not by state law. But I'll take any permit I get. Thank you.
So for all these new business, we can't determine anything tonight, it's all for,
You're completely correct.
okay, got it. Okay. All right, so next would be, if someone could get Phyllis.
Oh.
Would you mind, sorry. Oh, there she is. Oh. You're good, Phyllis. So next on our new business is Brockett Road, Giants Neck Beach Association, Incorporated 1941. Oh wait, we're not seating Phyllis, right?
No,
She's remaining unseated for this.
I'm part of the public.
The applicant for Giants Neck Improvements Club Incorporated, owner, the application for determination of permitted non-regulated activity to remove approximately 40 feet by 40 feet of vegetation in Lower Nahantic Pond.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm here for my neighbor.
Sorry, Phyllis, can you state your address?
Oh, yes, Phyllis Berger, 32 West Patagonia Road, Niantic, Connecticut. I am here for my neighbor, Angelo Botera. He's written a narrative. He has been a long-term member of the Giants Neck Beach Association. He has 3 sons that he used to take fishing at the pond in our neighborhood. and now he's 84 years old, and he'd like the pleasure of taking his young grandchildren to the same pond to take them fishing. But the water lilies have made it difficult, so he'd just like to be able to cut the stems of the water lilies down to the bottom so the kids can fish and cast and reel their sunfish or small mouth bass in. So that's what he's asking for. It's a permitted non-regulated activity under 4.2 of the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Regulation.
How do you go about doing that?
Oh, he's going to do it in a small boat, and he's just, shears basically.
Oh,
Just
just
kind
go
of,
and
yeah.
get them? Okay.
God bless him. Yeah, that's.
Gary, do you by chance have that section 4.2?
I have it. Do you want it?
Oh, yeah, please. Just curious to see it. All right, so 4.2 says the following operations and uses shall be permitted as non-regulated uses in wetlands and watercourses, provided they do not disturb the natural indigenous character of the wetland or watercourse by removal or deposition of material, alteration or obstruction of water flow, or pollution of the wetland or watercourse. A, conservation of soil, vegetation, water, fish, shellfish, and wildlife, and B, outdoor recreation, including play and sporting areas, golf courses, field trials, nature study, hiking, horseback riding, swimming, skin diving, camping, boating, water skiing, trapping, hunting, fishing, and shellfishing, where otherwise legally permitted and regulated. Okay. Yes, do you have a question?
I believe that indicates that if material is removed, it requires a permit.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting situation because unlike other applicants that have come before this group, where they want to remove all vegetation, Phragmites or whatever it might be, and eradicate it, the applicant here just wants to temporarily cut it down in a small area, and we know that it will all grow right back very quickly. So the question in my mind becomes, does this become an annual procedure? Are we sure that it's going to be limited to the 40 by 40? If he's doing it by hand, I would assume so. Even if he's 24 instead of 84, but nonetheless, I think this is uniquely different from most of the other applicants that we've seen.
I would agree. The request is much different than hydro raking
Yeah.
eradication of Phragmites. In interpreting that, I would note that to say that the operations shall be permitted as non-regulated uses, provided they do not disturb the natural and indigenous character of the wetland or watercourse by removal or deposition of material. So there is a removal of material, technical, literal interpretation of that.
But that being said too, so when there's hedges along a water course, you can cut them down to waist height or something, right? There's a rule or something. Clearing, isn't there?
You have the maintenance of the property under section 4.1A, C, uses incidental to the enjoyment and maintenance of residential property. Such property defines but it talks about the size of the parcel. So essentially, it's uses and the maintenance of existing structures and landscaping. So if you're landscaping and hedge trimming, or it's adjacent to a pond, you can do that.
It's maintaining. I mean, I guess I'm kind of, because the roots are still remaining. So just like when you're maintaining a hedge, you're leaving the plant there. You're just trimming it back. It's going to grow back.
Correct.
I'm just kind of looking at this from.
Are you trimming the hedges here? No.
No, but you're not removing the plant. It's going to grow back.
It's going to grow back. We are technically removing material.
It's,
Yeah,
it's,
that would be the other question is how would that dispose of, most likely. It would be placed on the bank, to keep water. And
Yeah, and then shrink to small. I think this is more like mowing your grass. You know, it's something temporary that's going to grow right back.
So are we determining if an application is required or not?
Well, yeah, so they made an application for a determination of permitted non-regulated activity. So their request is that they believe that it's a non-regulated activity. The agency needs to make that determination. Whether or not they need a permit. And I'm not sure, obviously without asking where the hydro raking, I know they've done hydro raking in the pond in the past. So I'm not sure if they want that as planned in the future. If so, if that is an opportunity there to remove some of this under that permitting. But, again, a separate permit that I think we'd see sometime in the future.
But
Not ready to-
But hydro raking is regulated.
Yes. And as I said, we've issued permits in the past for that activity.
So I guess I'm just kind of curious what this paragraph then is really what it does allow.
So it allows you to fish without needing a permit.
Okay.
You can hunt, you can horseback ride, you can swim, all those things. And I think when you look at the previous application, and you look at that, I think under that section of conservation of soil, vegetation, water, et cetera, the previous application could have been construed that that activity meets that definition. Although I think the material is a fair amount of material being brought in
Mm-hmm.
to do that, even though it is topsoil. So with that, I think that's what we're
So
regulating.
I wonder how this stacks up against like what's been going on in the local ponds, like the pond on Atlantic Street, you know, where they've been trying to make it blue and beautiful by eradicating Phragmites. I think that's a far more severe removal of material and changing the local spread. And in our pond, Ryan, down at the end of the street there, it doesn't seem to matter what we do. It just goes right back to what it was.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of pushing for non-regulated, no permit required.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. We're talking about a small space and it's going to grow right back. I mean, but how do you can't keep continuously cutting it because eventually it will die. Right? Year after year for 10 years, you think they're always going to grow back?
Probably what I will do is actually spread.
Spread. The more you cut it, the more it spreads.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but under this, you would also say, well, is it really changing the natural and British character of the water source?
I mean, if you look at this picture, like the amount, it's, I don't know,
Yeah,
a
so,
small area of the whole lake, but is that the only area where there are the lily pads? Like, it's hard to.
No, there's other areas. This is just, there's a cement wall there, and that's where the kids have always stood, just to cast out and reel back in. I mean, they're 7 and 8 years old. They're not gonna do any big time fishing.
I mean, you can see there's a 2019 aerial. Doesn't really show a whole lot there. Sort of back, and I guess the Google satellite map is the most recent aerial, sort of, down there with the state, recent state flyover. And here, you don't see a whole lot there either. So somewhere between this picture submitted into the record this picture here, obviously there's some lily pads that have grown back, I think, since they've done the hydro raking. My guess is those pictures were done after hydro raking.
Maybe a naive question, but the sense of ownership, who is responsible for this watershed?
Giants Neck Association.
Okay.
It should be noted that those watermelons grow during the amphibian breeding season. Not allowed.
Yeah, if you could come up.
It's not a public
Oh, wait, no,
hearing.
it's not a public hearing. I'm sorry. It's not a public hearing.
So you can't take public comment.
Right. What do you think?
Well, if we say it needs to be permitted, then they'll have to come back with, to pay a fee and file an application for a permit.
They just pay the state fee. The association, their government agency.
Mhm.
So they'd be back just like all the other applications.
So my only concern would be is if we said, that's only 40 by 40, what happens next year when it's 150 by 150? And pretty soon it becomes hydro raking, and it could leak into something that we didn't really want to approve.
Can I respond to that? It's only going to be 40 by 40. He's an 84-year-old guy. He's not going to do that big of an area.
Understood. But I'm suggesting that perhaps other people might say, oh, well, it was okay for him. We can just hop in there and do it.
Issue of precedence, that would be a concern.
Right.
I think, this is circumstantial. In every case, and every application is different. So, that being said, would you hey, you did it in this case, everyone who has a pond in their backyard now wants to remove vegetation, again, what can we police, right? What we see from the rights of way, and how people get aerial photos. We haven't been given the capability or the go ahead to use drones or anything like that. So at this point, can we have the police what people do in the backyard to the backyard pond? So they can, there could very well be regulated activities occurring that aren't picked up. I would say by definition, after reviewing the regulation, it is the removal of material. It's a small area, 40 by 40, I would agree, it's not in terms of its impact. But I think maybe technically it needs a permit because of the removal of material. Now, if the fishermen were to remove the lily pads by a hook and bobber, which I've done when I fish, you can clear out the 40 by 40 area. So doing a non-regulated activity. That's the boundary that we have. I've taken plenty of it. It's happened. You lose plenty of hooks, and it's a whole other environmental impact issue.
So, go ahead, Chuck.
So what is the burden on the applicant, other than paying a fee and requiring a permit?
Just demonstrating that the proposed activity would not have an adverse impact on the water.
And what is the precedent being set by making it regulated, other than if other people want to do this in their backyards, as was brought up, they have to come back to the board and
They can get a permit to do so.
get a permit?
I think it's not saying that it's not allowed, it's just not a permit to do it.
Yeah. So it's not a huge burden.
And again, I would remind the commission that under the statute is we regulate the activities. We don't necessarily prohibit them. unless there's no prudent and feasible alternative, and that's in the cases of when there's direct wetland impacts. So with activity taking place in outside of the water course or wetland in the upland,
Yeah.
it's kind of fair game. We're really obligated to try and issue a permit for those activities.
Right.
Obviously evaluating them and vetting them
Yeah.
to ensure that there's no impact.
And my question is not to prevent this from occurring for an 84-year-old man to do this, but doing a proper fashion that sets a precedent for the future that, you know, we're going to do things appropriately. That's all.
I think, I certainly think it's
It's a hard one.
On a literal interpretation, a technical interpretation, I would have to agree that that would be the process to go through. That being said, I do think it's a lot of red tape. You know,
Can we-
recreational activity.
Can we, as a committee, make a motion to have a one-time exception to the regulations for this specific
I
application?
don't think you can make exceptions to the regulations.
Okay.
You have to interpret them, so either you're gonna determine that this is non-regulated and that somehow the removal of that material does not adversely impact the water course or change the indigenous character of it.
I'm on board with that. I mean, our pond, down at the other end of Oak Grove Beach, we've taken, you know, we've had basically a harvester in the pond. You know, clearing stuff. Now, I don't know whether they got a permit or not, but we ended up
That
with.
was through DEP. Yeah.
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, they not get a local.
all right.
I don't recall.
Yeah, no, that was,
So I think it's the commission's discretion as to whether or not you feel confident that you can determine that, even though there is a removal of material, that it's not changing or adversely impacting the water course, and it doesn't change that natural indigenous character.
Yeah, the statement again says the following operations and uses shall be permitted as non-regulated uses in wetlands and watercourses, provided they do not disturb the natural indigenous character of the wetland or watercourse by removal or deposition of material. So by removing that material, if it does not disturb the natural and indigenous character of the wetland, then it's allowed.
That would be the interpretation. You have to think that the
Based on being a small percentage
Based on
of
the fact that it's 40 by
right.
40, it's just being snipped, not pulled.
the bottom, if he's removing it from the boat, he's going over the side of the boat, right, and you can cutting, you're removing, not removing the root, so he's not disturbing like bottom, which is a benefit. So the actual impact, I think, is minimal, but there is material, where does that material go? The waste material, I believe it's gonna have to be placed on the bank with the water and break down. I don't know where else you put it, unless you put it in garbage bags. Want to dewater it, probably dispose of it in the bench. Short of it spreading. I mean, you really can't put it anywhere else. Take it as a transfer station.
so, if I could, I'd like to make a motion that we find that this is non-regulated activity. And let it go at that.
Do I hear a second?
Can I ask another question?
Mhm.
Sorry. Is
Guess people don't like that.
it okay to ask after he made a motion?
Yeah, you should ask for a second, so if there's no second, then the motion fails.
Right.
Motion. So someone could second it, and then you can have discussion, but then you're gonna take a vote, so
So,
ask your question.
well, I'll second it first,
Okay.
so then we can discuss,
Now you have discussion.
and then we'll go to vote, so you can
Oh, okay.
discuss.
I'm like, so if we do deem this as it should be regulated because, say, we're following that to, like, interpreting it as where they're removing, there's removal of material, so it has to be regulated, then they would have to come back with another application, and then it would come to us, and then we haven't, like, basically do the same exact thing, and,
Correct.
but that would kind of set the precedence, so that way nobody else could come back and say, oh, well, they chopped that down, so.
Right, you're requiring that you get a permit, so you're gonna require everyone else to get a permit.
But at the same time, I don't think it limits us, because if someone's gonna go through and remove, you know, all this plant matter in their pond, and it is a significant amount, then we can determine, okay, they are disturbing the natural character. You know,
So-
it's that undefined of like, well, you know, is it disturbing
Yeah.
or is it not?
I am not familiar with this pond, like how much, you know, percentage wise. Yes, okay, it's a 40 by 40 foot section, but how much coverage of lily pads is there? Like, is that going to be 80% of what's in the pond, or is that, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I mean, the pond looks pretty decent size, but, I mean, from this picture, the area, it looks incredibly small, but I'm just wondering, okay, well, how much of the area is,
Yeah, so he
Really
says
covered.
it's 1 inch is 40 feet, so he's doing 1 inch by 1 inch
yeah.
size-wise of this pond.
But are the lily pads like only here? You know, so it's like, he's cutting a quarter of it, or,
Yeah.
do you know what I,
Right. Basically, we don't know the actual coverage of those lily pads across the entire pond. Right, so we don't know what the volume is there. So by removing a 40 by 40 section, is that 100% of all the lily pads, or is that only 10%? Right?
It's,
So maybe the applicant can,
it's less than probably 5%, yeah.
okay,
If even that, you know.
okay.
And there's been efforts in the past on this pond to remove the lily pads?
Uh,
there's been applications for hydro raking, which we've issued.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably 9 years ago, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we have further discussion? I know this is a tough one, everyone's back and forth. Usually we're all on the same page, but it's good to have a discussion. This is,
Absolutely.
I just don't want to get into a bind where it's like, okay, well, we didn't,
Well, here's the good news. So even if you have to come back for an application, right, and you're concerned about precedent, you still have December, January, February. Nobody's fishing, sure ice fishing,
Right.
and lily pads aren't falling. So I think and again, if we take any precedent from the last meeting, having them come in for an application because there's no fee other than the state fee, well, then maybe that's the best way to go, is to cover your bases and require a permit. I think it might behoove us to look into the regulation and say, should we get some clarification from you and see if we can't modify it. And as we draft, and we're working on draft regulations, maybe then there's an opportunity to reword that section. And actually I can talk to DEP and see what they think about doing that. If we deviate a little bit from the model, right? What parameters are there?
yeah, because it's not quantitative at all, which is the challenge.
Correct. So that's kind of discern whether is it really changing the character of this thing.
Mm-hmm. So, should we table this discussion?
Well, if you table the discussion, well, then it's gonna be January before they're
No, you're right, okay.
an application is required to get one. So I would strongly encourage to try to get them into determination. You got a motion on the floor.
We do.
Unregulated activity.
All right, so all those in favor that this is a non-regulated activity. So on the fence here. All those deny? Opposition? All right, I guess I am too.
So is there a meeting in December?
Yes.
Okay.
So then we would,
So then we can expect to see an application for this patient specific.
in the meantime,
Activity.
do you think you could reach out to find out from the state
Absolutely, yes.
if
I can talk
there's
to
any clarification?
See if there's any.
So they wouldn't have to go through that process?
There may be another town who's already dealt with this.
Okay. Oops. Okay, so next we have 138 North Bridebrook Road, Alexander Nebelung, applicant, Nebelung Farms LLC, owner, application to construct a single-family house with utilities off existing driveway as approved under permit 03823 dated June 2nd, 2003. And Phyllis has reseated the new stack.
Again, I don't believe it's here tonight, but they had previously issued a wetland permit for a single-family home at 138 North Bridebrook. So they've asked for another permit, basically, since their old one is expired and they would move the house. That being said, I reviewed it. They applied for an administrative approval because there were a couple of pipes involved here. I felt that I could not issue that permit because it was actually potentially activity in the water course. The house location, obviously speaking of lot, to the south, and access, start here, south of the lot, has frontage on North Rybrook in two spots, 50 feet wide. There's a crossing here that would be needed if they were coming off of North Rybrook there. The driveway entrance to the site is further north. There's an existing concrete bridge that crosses the brook. The drive is kind of snakes between two wetlands. And this particular pipe, we're looking potentially to improve if need be, or ensure, at least ensure that it's clear. It connects these two wetlands together. So that was part of their permit. I don't really foresee any major issues with this. As I said, a permit was previously issued for a single-family home. I don't believe there's much improvement needed to be done to this driveway. It's pretty much in place. They're just probably replacing the top coat of gravel, short of paving it. I don't believe there's any intention to pave it. So if you have any specific questions, I do believe you have copies of the permit that was previously issued.
So can you clarify that, so there's an existing permitted approved lot for building houses, and what are they actually approved, what is this application for?
Single-family home on one lot.
Wait, but you said they already had a permit for,
Yeah, in the wetland agency issued a permit for this particular home
okay,
years ago. They never built it, so the permit expired.
oh,
So they
okay.
couldn't come back and just, they weren't within the 10 years, they're beyond the 10-year period. So
Okay.
it's a complete renew application, so they're basically saying, take our old application, bring it forward,
It's the same application,
and we want to do the same activity.
okay,
The difference here is we have a 300-foot open review area versus the previous 100-foot. So what you, the blue line that you see is the 100-foot open review area, but now that is now extended out to 300 feet, and the entire home would then fall within it.
so wait, that house, it's to the left there, that, where you are right now with your cursor, that's the proposed house?
That's the proposed one.
And the blue is the 100
100
foot,
open review
so they're
area.
pretty much within the 100 foot,
They're just beyond. with the home. This
Yeah,
Oh, the
just
water's
the edge
the
of
other
it.
way.
Yeah, this orange area, that's the wetland.
I see.
Wetland, all the orange boundary is the wetland.
What's in the middle?
Ledge, rock, outcrop.
Okay, okay. I'm getting oriented now. I'm like, what is that? This map is so small.
So I can,
I know, I'm like, is this water here? Is this the lake? What is this? And there's already an existing driveway.
yes. My concerns with the existing driveway with that, there's no guardrail or anything like that on the concrete bridge. So they may wanna
Oh, yeah.
put guide rails up,
Makes sense.
across that.
That's right, that's right.
Did zoning approve this 10 years ago? Do we know?
As far as, but they never made an application for this house, I don't think.
Okay.
So it looks like, based on what they submitted in the plans, this is the lot on North Broadway Road. You can see here's the entrance, the driveway comes in, for the most part, it's there. They had to make some improvements to bring it up into this area. Here you can see this is kind of lawn.
Is there a current house?
No, they
Oh.
never built the house. So they
Oh, I thought they were like putting an additional, I misunderstood. Okay.
They just wanted a permit to build a single family home.
Okay.
So where is this on North Brybrook? I'm kind
So
of,
you have your
Way up there.
prison.
okay, you pass the condos.
Yep, heading northbound. So, that parcel is right here, where those condos are. On North Broadway. And this
Oh.
parcel is right here.
Oh,
What's the size of that parcel? I don't,
Roughly 18 acres.
18?
and so the only way you can get in there is through the bridge, crossing the stream?
Currently, yes. But I would note it does have two frontages, each of 50 feet in width. The minimum for a town road.
So the bridge that is there, is that theirs?
Yeah, I think they built it years ago. I don't know when it was constructed. I would think for building permit purposes, that the building official would need to inspect it, ensure that it's a full vehicle, at least in a fire truck, ambulance, maybe cross or something. But aside from that, assuming no work has to be done to it, I don't see where we would actually regulate. There would be anything for us to regulate unless they had to do some work to it. That would be discovered upon making their application for a building permit.
Okay, so for tonight, we're receiving this application,
Correct.
and then next meeting, we would vote on it?
Correct.
Okay.
And as I said, they applied for an administrative permit, so the fee that they paid was $260, but being that there's a pipe involved, so again, don't feel it falls within my jurisdiction as the agent, then they would have to increase the fee to the agency's fee, so we'll have to send them correspondence indicating the increase, because it's a commission issue, would be the commissioner's permit. With that said, they're going to have to calculate in terms of the area disturbed, the whole home, the septic, all that's included.
Okay. Okay. So next would, I don't need to make a motion here for that one, right?
No. We just, there's nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
Table
okay.
discussion.
So then next is our 2025 meeting and site walk calendar. Does anything look like it's a holiday? I think that looks good. There's still Tuesdays. All right, do I hear a motion to approve our 2025 regular meeting and site walk schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve that regular meeting and sidewalk schedule for 2025.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is another addition to the agenda, the 3 Scott Road, Richard W. Brodowski, applicant and owner, application for determination of permitted non-regulated activity for the installation of an in-ground fiberglass pool with a concrete patio.
It looks like this gentleman has to be within 300 feet of a wetland and water course to the north, on Scott Road.
Really, that looks like a long way.
Yeah, where's
You outline
Oh,
map, the blue line is the water course, is the ponded area. So at the end of that, over to this guy's lot, is 300 feet extends. So to this line, right there.
does that water course just end right there?
No, the water course ends here, yes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think it's, I'm not sure, it's just catching drainage from these fields.
Yeah.
But, you know, an orchard in here,
Mhm.
not sure what they're growing. So here's the existing home, a little pool behind it, plus the septic tank. So again, you have the home, pool is somewhere over here. Don't anticipate that there will be any impact to the water course. It's a nice location. There's a driveway, gravel road that it between the site and the water course. There's trees as well. Over that driveway.
All right, so since we just add this to the agenda today,
This is
we're gonna determine if we can determine if it requires an application or not, if it's permitted, non-regulated. Does anyone have any questions about this one?
So how does this fall under the non-regulated activity? Because of swimming?
No, he's just saying there's no impact as a result of his application. As far as I know, I don't have any other information as to why he needs a permit.
Well, so I think this is what's gonna fall into our future categories in our regulation updates, as far as like, you're outside the 100-foot within the 300, but it's like a pool shed, right? That you would,
Yeah, I think I may have told him he needed a permit, an administrative one, and here he's saying, well, I'm so far away, why do I need one? I'm gonna go apply for a determination. Doesn't cost me anything to ask for my permit. $160.
yeah, I mean, this is typically what you would just do, you're administratively approved.
Typically,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So can we just determine that that's what needs to be done?
so we'd have to determine that it's a permitted activity.
and it can be issued by DEA.
I mean, pools that are within 100 feet,
I
they're
typically-
permitted.
I typically just tell people you need a permit.
Yeah.
Apply and get their
Right,
Get a permit.
right,
for their pool or shed, deck,
There you
whatever.
go.
yeah, Yeah.
Unless it's, again, certain thresholds that I use is 25 feet to the left of the water course. 100 cubic yards or more material being excavated or deposited, those types of things before I kick it off and say, commission needs to approve this.
Mhm.
And again, as I just said, anything taking place in the water course, I can't approve anyway, has to come here, so. In this case, there's all the works in the uplands and I would typically. But again, they wanted your determination, so here we are.
I think this falls within our regulations of permitted activity,
Yeah.
just, they don't need to come to us, so, yeah, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that 3 Scott Road resident Richard Brodowski has to get a permit to install the in-ground fiberglass pool.
Do I hear a second?
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is that everybody? Yes. Okay. Moving along to pending applications, 294-2 Flanders Road, 296 Flanders Road LLC, applicant and owners. The application for a proposed light manufacturing facility of approximately 185,000 to 215,000 square feet with parking lot and retaining wall.
That's tougher.
So if we approve a permit for this, it goes on to zoning from us, correct?
Yeah, they would, I mean, I think as you saw from the record, there was an issue, oh, I'm sorry. 94, sorry. There was an issue regarding the use. Zoning commented that the prohibited use of the zone. The applicant responded to that, indicating they would go attend the zoning, request a zone change, a reg change. Really not any jurisdiction over that, or whether or not that occurred, but that would be the next step. I did provide the agency with a memo, proposed draft motion.
Yeah, if we just take a few minutes, if everyone wants to read through, there's a memorandum in your folder. So Gary, when we did the site walk, you asked the individual, the developer, whoever he was, about a feasible alternative, and he said no directly. And you had thought that perhaps the building could be moved closer to True Value?
To the east, yes. So essentially, because all their proposed activity is in the upland, there's really no requirement necessarily for them to come up with using the food mill permit in order to prove it. What they do need to do is demonstrate that the proposed activity has little to no impact on the wetland. In order to receive a permit. So in this case, they don't want to relocate the building. I think they would be further from the applicants, mainly because they're thinking about future development on the two, what are proposed tracks on the area between both parking lot and the existing parking lot.
Oh, so there'd be another building going in,
I think
possibly
they're
in the future?
contemplating potentially 2 more buildings in these vast areas, and that would be the only rationale I can think of to explain the 300 spot, the parking lot.
I thought it had something to do with the rules that the building can't be on a curve, like, because the road curves and it has to be certain.
Yeah, there was some concerns about that too, based on the orientation of the building in order for it to work with tractor trailers. You have an industrial building, and I think the way they wanted to set it up, because the way the proposed, or the existing road curves in there, or the drive aisle, I think that created some limitations to their interior circulation, and maybe how the building would lay out. I think, if I recall though, I think Greg said you could design the building to kind of move with the road. I mean, what would the difference be per se, other than you don't know what the use or the specific tenant requirements are? That's, so I still think you could probably do this on the building to follow the road. I mean, that being said, everything they're proposing again is in the upland. So, and I don't believe that it necessarily adversely impacts the water course, the wetlands. They've provided substantial information and data on the detention basins, the stormwater control. I believe the town engineer recommended snouts and hoods all in deep 4-foot sumps those methodologies will, further improve the water quality going into the basin before it even gets there.
So we did discuss possibly conditioning that the parking lot be reevaluated based on the potential purchaser. That they have 5 employees. Remember we?
Correct, and there was the issue of the sewer capacity, and then, okay, that's, we heard from the applicant, that was determined based on the number of employees, which would be about 5 or 6. Well, if you only have 5 or 6, why do you need 300 spots?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of inconsistencies that way in regards to the proposal, and that's as a result of not knowing your tenant.
There was a condition that we talked about at the last meeting, I'm trying to recall what I said, that was there any recourse that if we were to approve something of this nature, from our perspective, when a tenant was found, was there any sort of review, if you will, based on, would there be chemicals in use? Would there be something detrimental to the environment or the groundwater, that we could re-review this in conjunction with zoning?
I think there's potential for that. Typically, they're going to go find a tenant, and the tenant's going to say, okay, here are my needs. Either this building works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, reconfigure it. This is what I need it to work. And if that changes in this plan based on the motion that I provided you, any change in the development plan other than the things identified in it and discussed here would require a new plan. So that's, unless something significantly changes, and again, in terms of the chemicals or things that they use, obviously, those things would have to be inside this building. You can see here on the plan, there's this line that runs right through the building, which is, I believe, the aquifer protection area. So the zoning is going to require that any use there has to meet certain requirements, is my guess, and particularly because part of the building's within that zone. Which would be to the east of this line, so this direction.
So what's going to be on top of the aquifer?
Portion of the building and a parking lot. So I don't know if this, so you can see here, so you can see here, this line, this dashed line where my cursor's at, is the aquifer protection area boundary. So everything to the east of that will be in. Read that text. Level A, Connecticut deep boundary to the east of that line. And this side's out of that area to the west.
But everything to the right,
Yep.
there's no infiltration. It's all going into the
Well, there's this.
catch basin.
It's getting trapped into this area here, basically storm check system, just to be held, and then ultimately discharge it
Yeah, piped over to
to the
other
west,
side.
all the way to the west, to the basins.
Which are outside of the.
Correct.
So can we not condition the parking lot?
Well, you could, I guess, what would you, like, what condition would you like to put on? That it be reconsidered,
Yeah, reevaluated,
Reduced?
I
reduced,
think any tenant
pending.
would do that naturally. If I'm running a business, I don't want to pay for asphalt, I don't have to put down if I don't need it. So if my use, if I need 185,000 square feet, but I don't need a 300 space parking lot, I only need 10, I'm going to build a 10. I'm going to see if zoning will approve that. That's just how I would think most businesses would operate. With
So-
the exception of maybe some more Walmarts or big superstores. But then again, those calculations are based on zoning. So the zoning calculation here is what's going to dictate the number of spaces for the parking at the end of the day.
Okay,
the
so, and that's when the
recommendation-
tenant is approved, then the zoning's gonna see the application, and they're gonna see the parking lot size.
So even if they see this, I believe for light industrial, there's a requirement on the number of spaces, somewhere on these plans. Identify that.
So does the builder own this property? Or is he building like on spec or whatever?
So the current owner, the 296 Frontage LLC, is the applicant.
Okay.
So here's your parking information for a light industrial manufacturing building. And according to zoning, you need 369 spaces for 184,000 square feet.
So it's based on size, not employees.
You need one space for every 2 employees on the largest shift, plus one space for each company-owned vehicle. Total number to be determined. Industry standard is the 369.
Oh, okay.
Well, isn't that the most he can get for that size building?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right. So he could go less.
He certainly could go less.
All right.
What does, you said, so the industry standard is based on the size, but then what was the other, where it was recommended for, based on the employees?
One space for every 2 employees on the largest shift, plus one space for each company-owned vehicle.
I mean, could we put a condition in there that says that they use those standards as opposed to the industry, you know, like by those recommendations as opposed to the industry standards or something?
Well, my understanding is
I don't
that
know.
they use the industry standards to propose the largest impervious area they could, so that when they did their stormwater calculations, they would maximize that area, so depending on who the tenant is, regardless of who it is, they could say, hey, at a maximum, we're permitted to discharge this amount of stormwater. So if you have to, rather than coming back and saying we want to expand the site even further, need to modify the permit, they're just coming in initially, which makes sense.
Okay.
Is there, they submitted a pretty extensive maintenance schedule or plan. Is there any recourse if it's not followed or any way that's like followed up?
I would say you could indicate in the conditions that failure to follow the maintenance plan is considered a violation of the permit issue, and the violation, you consider a violation of the regulations at any time in the future. Because obviously the permit expired after 10 years, right? The use continues on. He's in business for 20, and he's no longer maintaining. I think the other thing you can lean on is on the zoning side, the permit that's issued there. They're going to say, hey, we issued you a permit, you have to maintain your stormwater structures, and we currently send letters out to developments saying just that. So it's your responsibility to maintain these things, and it's the best I think we can do, short of actually policing everyone. There's so many in town. So
Yeah, but I did have that exact thought, because I know we discussed with him about because he had very detailed maintenance.
Yeah.
And he said, oh yeah, we're going to stick by this is what we're going to do, but I don't see a specific statement in here that.
So you certainly could add to the conditions that they follow the O&M plan, and that any failure to maintain the structure and follow the plan is considered a violation of the permit and the regs.
Okay, so what's that plan called?
Yeah,
Operations.
it was
Oh, and
operations and maintenance report.
All right, I think we're probably ready to render a decision tonight in lieu of waiting to the next meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion with potential additional condition?
How much of this has to be read into the, just the,
Well, you can make just a motion. I did provide you the number of findings. Kind of justify the motion. So certainly, I would recommend anything in the motion with references to memo. So,
I mean, can I make a motion with just reading from the proposed motion part?
you don't have to.
I don't have to
you
read
don't
all of
have to
the,
I believe in the motion references the memo from
There,
Okay.
there is a proposed motion on page 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's talking.
Oh, okay.
So I make a motion to approve the permit, with the following conditions?
I highly recommend you read.
Just read exactly what it says.
paragraph.
Okay, never mind,
It's
scratch
specific
that.
to the plan.
Based on the findings in the memorandum from Gary Gaishel II, Director of Planning, Inland Wetlands Agent to the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency, dated November 1st, 2024, I hereby move to approve the application known as the application of 296 Flanders LLC, applicant owner, application to construct 185,000 to 215,000 square foot building on property located at 296 Flanders Road, East Lyme Assessor's Map number 31.3, lot number 5, Zoned Gateway Plan Development Building, GPDD, which is further subject to the following administrative requirements and required modifications to the site plan and other materials submitted in support of this application. 1. Erosion and sediment controls shall be installed prior to the start of any demolition, earthwork, or construction. 2. Notify the inland wetlands agent at least 2 days prior to construction to inspect erosion controls. 3. In areas proposed to be loamed and seeded, a low-maintenance lawn such as fescue, which requires minimal application of fertilizers and pesticides, shall be planted. 4. Forested cover within the upland review areas shall be maintained to the extent practicable. The proposed LOD shall be strictly adhered to throughout all phases of construction. 5. As the site is located within and adjacent to an aquifer protection area, the use of calcium chloride for dust control shall not be used. 6. An erosion and sedimentation control bond is a form of satisfactory to the town of East Lyme and in an amount acceptable to the Inland Wetlands Agency. Its agent and town engineer shall be posted with the town of East Lyme prior to the start of any work. 7. Hoods or snouts and 4-foot deep sumps shall be used in all stormwater catch basins. 8. Any proposed additional work beyond this permit in the wetlands or watercourse or its 300-foot regulated area will require approval from the Inland Wetlands Agency or its certified agent. 9. Any changes to the site plan listed on this permit require notification to the Inland Wetlands Agent and may require agency approval. A new plan incorporating said changes shall be given to the agent before any work begins. 10. Inland Wetlands tags provided by the Wetlands Agency, available in the Land Use Office, Department of Planning, and Inland Wetlands, shall be posted along the inland wetlands boundary, ideally at 40 to 50 foot intervals, satisfactory to the Inland Wetlands Agent. 11. No site work shall commence until all applicable conditions are satisfied. 12. Upon completion of the construction and all regulated activities and prior to the release of any financial guarantee for the erosion and sedimentation controls, certification from the engineer of record, a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, stating the stormwater management system was constructed and installed pursuant to the approved design, along with an as-built or improvement location plan showing of all surface and subsurface structures and improvements, including but not limited to grading and landscaping, shall be provided to the Inland Wetlands Agency or its agent. 13. Notify Inland Wetlands Agent upon completion of all regulated activities and construction for final inspection. And 14, we're going to add this one. Failure to follow the O&M report is a direct violation of the permit and inland wetlands regulations. Is that sufficient for that? This approval is specific to the site development plan, 43-sheet plan set, entitled Land Development Plans for Proposed Light Manufacturing, issued for inland wetlands and watercourses. Proposed light manufacturing, 296 Flanders Road, East Lyme, Connecticut, 06333, dated June 17th, 2024. Revised through August 27th, 2024. Prepared for 296 Flanders LLC, 108 Montauk Avenue, Stonington, Connecticut, 06378. By Jeffrey P. Dewey, P.E., and James M. Schrager, PLS, of BL Companies, 100 Constitution Plaza, 10th floor, Hartford, Connecticut, 06103, and submitted as the application known as 296 Flanders LLC, applicant/owner, application to construct 185,000 to 215,000 square foot building on property located at 296 Flanders Road, East Lyme, Assessor's Map, number 31.3, lot number 5, Zone Gateway Plan Development Building, GPDD. Any change in the plan or development plan layout other than those identified herein shall constitute a new application. Any modifications of this approval other than those identified herein shall constitute a new application unless prior approval from the agency or its agent is granted. The applicant owner shall be bound by the provisions of this application and approval.
Thank you. You don't have to do that next time. We all take turns.
So could we add something as far as whatever chemicals or whatever they're using has to be environmentally
Are we
So you have a motion.
Oh my God. Don't make me read that again.
Oh, you sure?
Do we hear a second?
I'll second it. There you go.
Thank you. Discussion?
So your question was, can you add a condition?
Well, we did it to the car wash where they had to use environmental soap. Is there any way to make sure that the products that they use, since they're sitting on top of the aquifer and they're near wetlands, are environmentally good?
Yep, you can, I'm trying to think of it, I can quickly get to that decision, because you could use the same language that was used in that Sophie application.
But would that potentially limit the type of manufacturing that could occur within that space?
We just asked them to provide the safety data sheets for the soaps that they were using and demonstrate that they were not environmentally safe.
Won't the business have to come to us anyway and apply for all that stuff, or no?
I don't know that they would be back for you to, if they were, everything's gonna be theoretically inside, can be conducted inside this building as far as use. So I think exterior use of this space will be the parking lot and the detention basins. So theoretically, use occurring inside, nothing's going to escape that building.
And if there's any storage, they'd have to come to us of materials, correct? Or storage
Any
outside
storage.
storage.
Yep, I would definitely say they have to, because that would be a change in the plan.
Right,
Not proposing
right.
any outside storage.
Right.
So anything like that would definitely come back here.
So how would you know? I mean, if somebody drove by and saw a barrel of something, that would be outside storage?
Sort of somebody policing it. You know, I drive by and I see, oh, they're storing, a bunch of 55-gallon drums outside, in the back corner of the parking lot. That would be a violation of it. I would think of the regs, think, okay, what are you doing with all these 55-gallon drums, That would be, something I can enforce on.
So are you asking a condition that we are aware of the materials that they're using, or that they, okay, so like providing those STS sheets?
I mean, this is our drinking water.
Yeah, right. No, I wasn't sure if it was limiting or providing the details. Because the Soapy Noble, we did state we wanted all the SDS sheets provided.
I don't know if anybody has any recollections of when we might have voted on that back in 23.
Wasn't it early in the year?
Yeah, very early.
Yeah, like January, February.
Public hearing for Sophie Noble, that was January. very similar motion. They may have just submitted those safety material data sheets into the record. There's nothing in, I think, there's nothing in this motion unless we add it. I don't see it in this motion. We must have added it. Yes. We added any soaps used are biodegradable and environmentally safe as per SDS sheets. So you could add something that any,
I don't know how we can, how can we
How do you
put
list
something
it?
like that in there? Because we don't know what
we,
is going in. So, I mean, if they're manufacturing something that does use some crazy chemical, but it's inside, we can't.
yeah, I would argue the difference between Soapy Noble and this building is completely sealed, where Soapy Noble is a car wash, has an open bay
Right.
where material could exit.
Point being is whatever business comes into that building, they have to have a permit, a business, a license.
At the end of the day.
And they have to provide the information on what their business encompasses.
Correct.
So if it says we're going to use harsh chemicals that might damage watersheds, that's something that would be in this application for a permit.
Yes, that would be in their application to zoning. And zoning would look at the use and say, okay, what are you using? Is it permitted within the overlay zone or not? Because a large portion of your building is actually within the zone. They can say it's all going to be handled inside the building. You know, they'll have to explain how deliveries are made, and they're kept safe, you know, during those operations.
So I'm just looking for a safeguard,
Yeah.
and I think that might be verging on it.
In regards to the aquifer protection area and our drinking water supply, the zoning commission would be the jurisdiction. For its protection. Not to say we don't consider it.
So there's a motion on the floor.
So, I think the discussion is, do we add anything regarding potential use of chemical substances from the industrial use? I think you could, because you're, you know, this will probably be entered into the zoning record as well. You could also add, you know, it doesn't have to be a condition, it can just be commentary, saying, hey, we strongly encourage the zoning commission to carefully review any proposed use of any use of chemicals within our aquifer protection area. And I think just as commentary, to report back to them.
That might be
Technically, on a
better.
zoning application, all they need is a report from the agency. They don't need the permit. Technically, to make the decision. Typically, though, the report comes in the form of the permit, and that's what gets reported to the zoning.
So you could have chemicals released through the air, and that would affect the wetlands, or could.
I suppose through atmospheric deposition of sorts, I think the difficulty, I mean, other than the local area, maybe smog type impact.
They're gonna use a Vector to clean up all that stuff. They're using like a physical machine thing to do a lot of the cleaning.
I think if you're generating noxious fumes, gas, things like that, you're gonna have to filter it.
Vent it.
You know, deep's gonna be involved most likely with something like that. If you're ensuring that you have scrubbers on your stacks.
Every 4 months.
Phyllis, what about the safety data sheets for any hazardous materials that will be stored, used on site, will be provided to town hall as part of the maintenance plan?
That would be fine.
That makes sense. I mean, there's nothing, they certainly can do that.
Yeah, so,
Make that number 15.
number 15.
But then just, so we put that in there and they're like, oh, yeah, here, this is some crazy chemical that we're using, here's the sheet, then what do you do to,
I report it to the zoning official. Say, hey, they
It's
just
above the
said, hey, they're using this.
in the aqua, okay.
You know, this is your jurisdiction, so is that permissible? I'd be asking Mr. Mahal.
Okay. That's, I just was like,
Yeah, right.
we could put it in there, but then what does it mean, you know, how do we follow up with
Yeah.
it and stuff, but,
Mhm.
okay.
It certainly would at least require them to submit the information,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know if you don't ask.
Okay, so I'm gonna add number 15. That's gonna say, the safety data sheets for any hazardous materials that will be stored on or used on site will be provided to town hall as part of the maintenance plan.
All right, so we have a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody? Okay. Okay, where are we? Old business, inland wetlands watercourse regulations. Regulations are being reviewed by Mark Samarka, town attorney, review and discuss revisions of the proposed final draft regulations.
I reached out to Mark today, he said my apologies sooner, but he has been out on leave, as you may recall, I mentioned previously. So I'm not sure if he has returned to his office as of yet, but he did indicate that he would take a look at the regs while he was out. So I'm waiting to hear back as to what comments he has on that. Or if any. So I did indicate, because we don't have these answers tonight, most likely his comments, if I can get them by mid-November, I could potentially make changes to the regs, if they're minor, to address any of his concerns, and then anything of more substance, we have to have discussion here, which basically would push any potential public hearing to January or February.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get some comment back from Mark before the end of the month.
Okay.
So we had talked about possibly that, I forget what number it was, but for that other permit where it was not really, you know, with the fishing and that I wasn't really clear that this would be a good time to maybe change that. So how, you were gonna reach out
Yeah,
and
so I can
then,
reach out and we can talk about that, so that's something that we can modify as we discuss.
Mm-hmm.
as we go, okay,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
so we
let's
don't,
not lose
let's,
sight of that.
yeah, let's not forget, that's all.
We'll have to have it nailed down before we go to the public hearing.
Yep.
So if it doesn't seem like it's too difficult, then, or if Mark suggests, I don't think this is something, but if it does, I'll let him know.
Okay. All right, next is the chairman's report. I don't have anything. Inland Wetlands Agent Report, the 2024 Deep Open Space Land Acquisition Grant Application. Request for letter of support from Arthur Carlson, East Lyme Land Trust Incorporated for the acquisition of almost 6 acres off of Heritage Road. Assessors map 35.0 lot 23.1-1.
Art is here tonight from the Land Trust. I will let you know that I think most of you are familiar with the Hathaway purchase that the town recently acquired 117 acres. Off of Hathaway Road, Scott Road. There was 6 acres that was not part of that acquisition. That provides roughly 1,200 linear feet of additional, would provide another 1,200 linear feet of additional water frontage on Lake Patagonia. The parcel is roughly 6 acres, plus or minus. And it would be in addition to the 117. Pull up the GIS and orientate you with the location. over here on Hathaway Road. And the drainage off the screen here is up right here on Scott Road. Throw the aerial on so you can get shows you the vegetated cover. Another 2019. And that's the leaf off. You can see there's a fair amount of wetland swamp here. All kind of the backside of that, we share a little bit of that with. So that's going to be well protected as part of that open space. This is all forested here. This 6 acres is again forested, relatively high and dry, exception of being within 300 feet of the water course. So again, 6 acres zone R40. So I would think at a maximum you could get probably 6 lots out of there, assuming you get suitable septic soils. I don't know what those are. We did in the past, I issued an administrative permit for soils testing on the site. So I believe they've kind of conducted that. I don't know what the results of that testing is. I haven't spoken to them. Landowners told me that they would put contact with light and see what the data reveals. But aside from that, I don't have any questions for myself. As I said, Mr. Carlson is here tonight on behalf of the Land Trust. If you have any questions for parts, I'm happy to answer them. This 6 acres, I will just note, this long pole is roughly 15 feet wide. Does have frontage on Heritage Road. Again, there's some error in the GIS, so it's not exactly an A2 accurate space here, but we do have A2 surveys of the parcel. This is just trying to maintain the commission or the town. Or do you want to add?
Yeah, so this was all deemed to be open space, and you're asking to acquire 6 acres of that open space.
No, he's asking for a letter of support. He wants to make application to the Connecticut DEP, the Open Space and Watershed Grant, to purchase this piece. This piece was not part of the 117 acres.
Who owns
Okay.
it right now?
Northside Holdings.
Now, this was for the town's acquisition. Is that right? Or
The
I
land-
think-
the land
The town acquired this piece here.
Yeah,
We acquired that.
what?
This piece was not a part of that negotiation.
Yeah, but I'm confused, because there was at some point some property that the owner wanted to provide to the town at a certain cost by the end of the year commitment, and or else it would be sold to a developer. Is this the same property?
I don't know.
Okay.
It could be, I would say, any parcel in town is liable to be sold to a developer at any given time.
Yeah.
And we're always under the threat of development, so it's really, I don't look at it as an argument. It's just looking at what can be done, what can be built, or what is permissible. So this is very helpful. So you can see what the land owned by the town of East Lyme, which is, I don't have this scan, so I can't bring it up on the screen.
Why don't I explain when I came to...
Yeah.
Why don't I explain something? You see, my name's Art Carlson, president of the Land Trust. 50 years ago, I was on this board. I'm here tonight. One of the deep requirements for open space to get money for it is develop community support. That's what I'm here to get support from this organization for this. It has to do with water, and that's why we're here. Okay? Let me explain this. If I start at the end of the plot, you see there's that's the 6 acres. You see that?
The blue, yeah.
Blue, yep.
That's so confusing to me. Look at this,
Yeah,
Yeah,
see it, we see it.
okay?
Mhm.
Okay, 6 acres. That was not in the Hathaway purchase. Okay? Never was intended. It's a separate piece of property. If you look at go to the other end of that picture, that was never in the Hathaway deal either. That was a separate piece of property. What we're looking at here is, and I want to explain why we think this is a very important piece of property to add. The existing Hathaway property we have has a total of, this is hard to believe, 6,100 feet of shoreline. You know how valuable 6,100 feet of shoreline are? Okay? Just from a recreation point of view. Okay? Imagine you could actually fish from that. What the other thing that we accomplished, even by buying this additional 6 acre piece, is in the watershed that feeds well 5, which is the most productive well we have in town. The Land Trust has been able to protect over the years this 115 acres, hopefully this 6 acres. We protected another 40 acres that feeds this the well 5. And you look at that whole watershed, along with what Yale protects by definition in Atlantic State Forest, we're protecting about 75 or 80% of the water that goes into well 5. Now that's a miracle. One of our major pushes is to protect the watershed. That's the big deal. Now just, what does this mean? Well, well 5 has only half the salt of all the other wells. Right there. Okay. So it's in a very critical area. Another reason why we want to add to this protection of well 5 is that this is upstream of I-95. So who cares about that? Well, if you look at the hundreds and thousands of gallons of petroleum and so on that go up and down 95, that's why we care. If we ever had a spill on 95, all our other wells are south, downstream of 95. Okay? This is the one remaining one. Very important. We have, and that I think summarizes the value of this property. It adds no shoreline. We have a wonderful, actually, way to access that. What's the circle on the end of, up in, you know, you go up to the, yeah, what's the circle?
Heritage Road.
Heritage Road. That's when you can access this property from Heritage Road. You can also from Scott Road.
So you're looking for the Wetlands Commission to write a letter of support to
That's
purchase this property and add it to the open space
That's
land?
correct.
Okay.
There are no wetlands on this property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But this is a logical organization that should say, yeah, that's why we're protecting wetlands. Okay? That's why we're protecting lakes, shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
This also has the recreational aspect of it. Okay?
So I know there's in part of the plan of conservation, POCD, there was a list of properties that were oriented for, I mean, obviously the more open space the better in town, but I know there's properties kind of in order of priority that should be purchased.
Yes.
So this was part of that.
Okay.
So I don't know if you all followed the town's acquisition of the 117 acres, but this 6-acre piece and this roughly 10 acres here were also part of this parcel. They were carved out through some lot line revisions and subdivisions. So you can see the yellow areas and this blue piece, and then this square here got conveyed to a small lot. This was a tiny little lot. Now it's roughly 10 acres.
Now, this list was created about 15 years ago. My commission created it, along with Jerry.
So this parcel was identified as the number one.
We were trying
parcel
to figure out, how do you rate open space? Why is this more important than that? Well, we come up with a pretty nifty list. If it supplies water, it's on the top of the list. If it's good for views, it's at the bottom of the list. And if it's athletic, it's somewhere in the middle of the list. Okay? So we look at the function of the property. And then we also rate the functions. And so we have a numerical scheme. It's very nice. Yeah. You can have an intelligent discussion then. And for example, the land trust, in the same watershed, we are just acquired a 40-acre piece that blows up against Darrell Pond. Well, you know, and the reason why we wanted that thing, water flows off of it 24 hours a day. It's amazing. I went out there this morning. Water is still flowing off that 40 acres into this aquifer, and into this. It's in the same watershed, of course. But that's the way we're looking at the properties now. That's the way you gauge what's a good reservoir, what doesn't work. And what we need is verbiage by this commission that says, yes, they look at this thing very scientifically, intelligently, and we think this is a good investment from the state of Connecticut for this case. But if we win this, which I think we will get about 65% of the yellow book value. Okay? As an aside, when we did that for the Hathaway property, 3 weeks before they awarded us the money for that, they cut it to a maximum of $400,000. We expected 65% of $2.3 million. Okay, but I guess that's the politics of the thing. But I guess we're back to the 65%. This thing will probably go on the market for somewhere in 600,000, 800,000, depending on how many houses they can fit on it. Okay, that's the pressure. Okay. We have to respond. The beginning and the end.
So what's the value? I mean, what is it that you can receive the property for, the asking price for you?
What?
What's the asking price, if you can acquire it?
Well, we haven't got the Yellow Book appraisal done yet.
Okay.
We have to do that. And that really is about as close to a real value that you can find. You know, the owner might say it's worth $10 million. Well, you have to get a Yellow Book appraisal and say exactly where it is. You need two of them. It'll be, well, it depends on what they want to put on this thing. If they want to put in apartments, it's going to have a higher value. If they want to put in houses, not so high. I mean, but it's open to do anything that the person wants to do, provided.
So are you applying for grants besides the state?
Yes, we've been quite successful with that over the years. In fact, we assumed ownership of the it's called Oaklands, it's a 300-acre parcel off of Holmes Road. We got that $600,000 from deed and a $1 million tax write-off by somebody who has a lot of money. That's not me.
Questions? I mean, I think for all the same reasons we acquired the 117 acres to apply to this 6 acres. Certainly, there's, as I indicated, there's an additional 1,200 linear feet of frontage on the lake. And as Art indicated, there are no wetlands on this piece other than it's adjacent to the water course. So certainly preserving it as open space, again, for all the reasons that we pursue the other portion of this land, would be applicable. If the town were to have any interest in this and potentially acquire it as part of the whole at some point in the future, there would be potential benefit. I think if the town were to negotiate and leave the door open for some structures, particularly that would be ancillary or support to what currently goes on the lake. I'm referring to the boathouse that we have at the state boat launch. You could put one out here. It would probably be a better venue in terms of circulation and not conflicting with the boat ramp that's already in place.
I'll give you the reaction of the guy who works for the town. I was talking with this about this, and he said, and he literally tapped his feet and moved his arms, and he said, "I've got a place to fish." Okay? So we don't want to miss that part. That's a mental health issue.
So, I was going to say, who's going to write this letter?
I would write it on your behalf.
Excellent.
I totally support your objective here. Can I make a motion?
Oh, we don't need a motion.
Okay.
Certainly can.
No, if we don't need a motion, let's
As
get
long
there.
as I
Huh?
consensus, I'm running a letter
Yeah.
on your behalf in support of this, and I'll just contribute here.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get to the next meeting to approve.
No, he needs it before then.
You need the letter prior to that. right?
Prior to that?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine, yeah.
I think
So can you write it and email it to us, and then we can see it, or you just write it and send it off? And
Well, I'm going to want to get Kristen's signature on it for Don's, so I can email it out to the commission. I just don't want to create a meeting.
Yeah, like no discussion about it,
Okay.
unless you could comment directly to Gary if you see something.
we can call you.
Call would be, because I'm afraid someone hits reply all.
Yeah.
These applications are very deep and very thorough. This is 15 pages. When you read it, you say, "Oh, I wonder who's going to do this," and then you realize that because you read it, you're going to do it. But it's not a silly thing. It really has some depth to it. And why I think we've been successful because we look at the soil, we look at the aquifer, we look at the watershed potential. That's the single most important thing in anywhere. The watershed potential.
I'm convinced.
You know, there's no question about it. And this is amazing that this still exists.
I think it's wonderful anytime the town acquires open space for the community, because this town is just becoming so developed.
Yep. Great.
Are you looking that other parcel that would connect if you were to acquire this 6 acres? That like square, is that like next on the list? No.
No, that's a private one. That's 10 acres. That's the one it's outlined in red on the.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's a house
that's
on
10
it.
acres. That's like one cottage on it. The person's owned that for about 50 years, and that's going to stay in the family.
Okay.
Okay, that has been expanded to that size, and in part of the deal, they've agreed to write covenants on that thing to keep it open space.
Oh, okay, so that makes sense.
You can quote me that that's what we're gonna do, but we haven't done it yet, but I suspect that will be done. And there's only, so what we have basically is an open shoreline for 7,000 feet. I mean, that's, I rest my case.
Yep.
If I talk too much, I might screw the whole thing up.
No, no.
7,000 feet.
It's good.
So if I'm clear, I'm gonna write a letter in support of the acquisition.
Yes.
Please.
Yep, okay.
And then just email us a copy.
I would like to ask one question. I asked this to boards and commissioners. And, can you give me one example of one piece of open space, use anything in this town, that the next generation regretted? The Cook's Pole. Okay? There was a fight, you know, to get that 65 years ago. And people in the north part of town didn't like it because they didn't go to the beach. The McCooks were really adamant about getting this, you know, getting the town to buy it. So here we are 65 or so years later. Who in the world would say that was a bad investment? But it was thought at the time. Okay? National parks. Can you name one that we shouldn't have bought?
Yeah, you're talking to the right commission, we're all for
Yeah.
open
We're
space.
under tree.
The more the better.
I just want them to be more here.
Yeah. All right, yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep,
thank
thanks.
you.
Thank you. All right, next we have administrative and commission issued permits.
You got in your packet, permits, any questions regarding number 3? Both on pool, another pool, and regrading of existing lawn.
Next, sorry.
At the same time, Mr. Renzo, getting patient in the back, I apologize, but he is here on behalf of one of our violations, the Flanders Road.
137 Flanders Road.
Nope.
Nope.
Down code. First.
Oh, I see.
So he's here
Okay.
to address that.
Do we have paperwork? Gary, do we have paperwork on that?
You do not. No, this is a violation. I sent the Sound Code, a notice of violation. They reached out to Joe Wren, PE, to come up with a mitigation plan for what's occurred. Essentially, they put in a dog park, and I think as a result of that, they created a bit of a damming effect with the runoff coming down the slope, which redirected it in such a way that it didn't make its way into an existing basin, a drainage structure, which it was, I believe, supposed to end up in. This problem wouldn't have happened, but because it went down the hill, where the power line right away is, it eroded out of that and created a large 3-4 foot gully. I guess deeper?
Yeah, the Costco.
How deep it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Joe Wren, professional engineer of Indigo of Old Saybrook. I've been in front of you many times. A couple of months ago, the new owners of this, they're relatively new, in the past couple of years or so, they purchased it from Conover, their group out of New York. They now own and manage the Sound and Cove, which is now 400 units, if you're all familiar with that. Gary was in contact with them. They contacted us to look at what the issue was. What had happened, well, first of all, to orient you, here's I-95, here's Costco, where Gary first saw the gully from, right, to the parking lot.
Filling up with gas.
Because otherwise this area is hidden. There are
Right.
400 units, and this is on kind of the eastern end of it, where you don't go unless you're visiting someone over there. But there is an access road that comes all the way down through Gateway Development, and you can clearly see that from the gas pumps at Costco. If you look back up there, there's a COMP right away. You can see that, and if you look closely enough, you'll see that there's an eroded gully there. So we went out, we investigated it. I had them put caution tape around it because there was no caution tape, and there were people walking their dogs at the dog park looking at the cone, not looking where they were walking. So Some parts, and I'll show you what we did, but some parts of the gully are 5 feet deep. The average over the length, it's about 275 feet long. The average depth over the length is between 2 and 2.5 feet. So there are areas that are foot deep, 2 feet deep, 1.5 feet deep. There are some areas in the center that are as much as 5 feet deep, believe it or not. The reason why this got so deep, it was very erodible soil, it was very loose soil. They moved around a lot of dirt during the construction of this phase. They had a huge topsoil soil stockpile area there. They graded, they cleared a lot of trees up in this area. Some of that's conservation area now, but it's all re-sprouting and regrowing, although there are no large trees yet at this time. They took some rock out of there, they screened it, they crushed some gravel, they were up there, had a pretty big operation for some time. Some of those tailings from that made its way to over by this access road. And you can clearly see if you look in that gully, there's a couple of feet at least of loose fill that wasn't very compacted. Maybe an old topsoil layer and then some gravel below that eroded out. What caused this is partially more on a minor scale, what Gary had mentioned. There is a dog park here that's wood chips, so it's relatively pervious. They did install an L-shaped, kind of like an interception swale, so as the water came down, it didn't go over the dog park, kind of got into the swale. The swale usually has some water in it, it's pretty flat. It seems like they should have extended it down, but they just ended it. And the ground in this area is poorly graded. You can see the contours. The first thing we did is we looked at all the available maps, but there wasn't any good enough as-built map that showed today's topography, especially with that. So we took 6 or 8 weeks or so, and we had the surveyor go out and get this whole area, get the exact topography that's out there today. So what we noticed is if you look at this grading, it's essentially, if it comes out of the swale, it essentially goes right over the dog park and more or less bypasses this little small detention basin that they have there. It's more of a drainage feature rather than a detention basin. It's a few feet, 3 or 4 feet deep maybe in the ground, if that. But it has a flat top catch basin in there. It's not above grade. As the water collects there, it just goes right into the catch basin. There is a sump there. Then there's an 18-inch pipe that leaves and connects it into the drainage system and goes on its merry way. The major cause of this erosion, based on our investigation, is the majority of the watershed still makes it to this basin. You can see these contours. There is a portion of it that bypasses over the dog park. The surveyor picked up a rut here, an eroded rut, so some of it's getting down and bypassing this. But the majority of the water still gets there. During construction, before the new owners owned it, that was all bare ground. So they had erosion sedimentation controls. There's no silt fence left anymore. But what had happened, when we looked at it, we looked at the flat top catch basin at the bottom of this, and it had a geotextile fabric like silt fence. Typically you put that under the grate while the ground's not stabilized so all the mud doesn't go into the catch basin. It looks like they never took that fabric out of there. No one ever took it out from under the grate. So when we had all these rains over the past year, I know it's been dry for a couple of months, but before that it was very wet. The spring is very wet, even early summer. This has a very small capacity, so without that catch basin functioning as designed, filled up very quickly, and it found the path of least resistance, went here, started as a trickle, just like the Grand Canyon did, and eroded this. Now what happened to all that material is that it came down here, made its way to the end, down in this area. You can see where the wetlands are. And the majority of the bulky, chunky material stayed up here, but some finer sands made its way into the well. So I went out with Bob Russo, who's a wetland scientist. He flagged the areas where he thought the sand was deep enough that it should be removed. Other areas, there might be a little bit more sand, but it's thin enough where everything could re-go through it. So he actually flagged that area that he thought should be renovated. We had sent the surveyor back out, and he located that. So the idea for restoration, this fabric, if you look at it, it burst through at one point. It got weak enough, and there was enough water on top of it that it just burst through. And then the drainage system started working again, and then this didn't get any worse because now all the water goes where it's supposed to go. So the idea is to create better drainage, better swale to that drainage feature as originally designed, and then refill this, grade it, seed it, stabilize it. If this is working fine, this is not going to happen again. And then down in this area, some of the material at the end of this, there's also about a 35-foot difference in elevation here, from top to bottom. So the material obviously made its way to the lowest point, and some of that material can be scooped. There's a nice convenient gravel access road, right here, that trucks and machinery can go on to access this material, put some of it back. The other material either could be taken from other parts of the site or it could be hauled in either way. There's somewhere between 120 to 150 cubic yards of material that's needed to fill that ditch in. And then down here, what the soil scientists recommended here is that laborers go in with hand equipment, rakes, shovels, wheelbarrows, things like that, rake the material, the sand out, bring it to this point so it could either be added to the trench or hauled off site. So it's generally fine to medium sands that's in here, but it's in certain areas it's deep enough where he recommended removal of that sand out of there. So the reason for me coming tonight, Gary asked that we come and just provide an update, show you what we've been working on for some time. I feel that we've made very good progress in the next piece. If you have any questions or comments or anything that you would like to see added to the plan, we would finalize this plan, submit it to Gary for final review.
Moving forward, so being that it's enforcement action, and I'm not asking them to make application to repair this because I think we have more leeway, we can get it done as enforcement action. They can just come back as many times as they need to get your input. You can keep open dialogue and people get their question. But based on the description that I'm hearing Joe go through as far as method, I think is suitable. The area that he's showing that was inundated in the wetland, we did while we had our interns here. I went out with Miles and Hinkley and used GPS, and it looks relatively accurate. It actually might be a little further in than what we got, so it's fantastic that they picked that up as well. I think the typical recommendation is to hand remove depositions over 3 inches, and if it's less than 3 inches or less, you can leave it, rake it out. We had, I don't know if you recall, the solar farm incident where we had that erosion event. They took the deposits in areas that were greater than 3 inches and removed it or broadcast it into the upland, so just spread it out so it's no longer changing the soil profile. So I think that's what Bob is suggesting they do here. I don't think there's really anywhere you can broadcast it into the upland so much so.
The idea is just to mix it with its more chunky material that's there and use it for some of the base of the trench.
So they can take it and mix it and reuse it as process material for the trench. Totally makes sense. Say 10, 20 cubic yards of material in those. If they need 120 to 150, that's a fair amount that they save. And it works, it gets it out of the way.
Are you going to do any plantings?
There's really, it's well vegetated, the area.
Yeah.
And no plantings were really, that I can see, or that Bob Russo had mentioned, that were destroyed or killed or changed in any way. It's just that there's a layer of sand washed into the wetland, so it's just remove that and then everything would regrow.
I do have pictures that we took when we were out there this summer.
We did a site walk there?
We did,
We
yeah.
did
Yes.
it, and you can
Yeah.
see the skunk cabbage, well, I think the skunk cabbage already, came through, so it was
spring.
it didn't look like it was really adversely impacted too much. Maybe those deeper deposits might choke it all, therefore, so before next season, if they can get in there before, April.
But once that's removed, then everything could resprout, everything's rooted.
So if they can do this work before the spring, that would be fantastic. So that's what we're hoping for. Weather holds, it's going to be dry, which is great.
And, I have to say too, Gary probably would agree that the new owners are pretty responsive. As soon as they knew they had an issue and understood the issue, they contacted us right away and said, what do we have to do?
Any concerns over the fact it's a dog park and animal feces and how much that could contribute to bacteria with runoff and that being treated?
I actually didn't consider that.
Per DEP, that's a major impact to beaches, ponds, and needs to be.
They have state waste stations there, and most people, based on my observations, a few times I've been there, it's pretty clean. Everybody wants to be neighborly and not leave because no one's there to clean it up. So it's usually pick up after your own pet.
I recall, I think I heard resident of town who lives in this development who has a dog. Apparently, I guess if you don't pick up, there's a fine, potential fine, but neighbors can say, hey, you didn't pick up your dog, report it to the management.
Yeah, I can look into that too. But I know that there's not like a big pile in
Right.
there. You know what I mean?
I'm hoping there isn't. Yeah.
No, it's pretty clean. It's wood chips, it's pervious surface, and also the 300-foot line is here. It's right on the edge of the dog park, so it's on the upper fringe of that 300-foot, well outside 100 feet, and even 200 feet away from the wetland. So it is well up gradient, but it's also pretty far away.
At my time, I observed the dog park. I think when we went out there, we started walking the new ownership. The wood chip. So this grading, these changes shall address that issue of the runoff line across the dog park itself.
Yeah, we're going to fine tune it, but we want to more positively swale this.
Okay.
So we get everything from the west, and then this swale that's already there, we're just going to leave it. But once this fills up, it just finds its way.
So anything
harmoniously
laying on the
past
dog
the
park will infiltrate in the wood chip. It's not going to push the wood chip.
Yeah, there won't be any. There'll be less surface runoff over the dog park now as part of this scheme.
So is this just a fenced-in area? There's no buildings there?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I brought it up in the
Buildings
aerial.
are not.
You see the aerial, here's the dog park, there's the trench, and you can see that it ends right there. And here's that little detention ponded area. And you can see here's a channel that runs right through the.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see the actually this is a good picture. The end of that L-shaped swale, you can see how it's like finding path of least resistance according to the dog park.
There's a 4x4 along the base of the fence. I don't know, I guess that was to hold the wood chip in place.
Probably to delineate the park.
But the water would just pond up against it and then literally overtop that into the dog park.
Yeah, so the idea is to take the end of that L shape and go straight down to that detention area there positively, let it get into the drainage system how it was normally supposed to go. And then the trench goes along that access road there, fill that in and stabilize that area.
I don't think it was close, that trench goes up there.
I'm not sure when that was taken. It almost looks like it was under construction.
Yeah, construction before
See how this area over here is not green yet?
Yeah.
It looks like it was under construction. We're just still in the dog park.
So are you gonna go into that detention basin and remove whatever fabric is left, or it
It
all?
already burst through, so at some point in one of our big storms, you can see, because it's frayed, if you go there and look at it, you can see that something very heavy pushed on it, and just broke through it.
But then isn't there like stuff still like flapping, like does that need to be removed to make it
We
function?
already did that, so
Oh.
one of the first things I recommended that they have a contractor go in and inspect the pipes and inspect the basin and make sure it's all clean and is functioning properly. So that was already done.
Okay.
We already did that. And it hasn't been tested because we haven't had rain in 2 months.
Right.
Well, the wildfires, we know that going on for sure. But yeah, this is all cleared out. There's an 18-inch pipe about 4 feet down in there, so that'll take all the flow that will be brought to it. And it won't, if this is functioning properly, it won't fill up and then start eroding anymore. And with that big catch basin and the pipe in there, as long as it's open and free flowing, it'll work forever.
Joe, I also, Rick, if you remember recalling, there was an existing pipe in the ground that was revealed as a result within the trench, and I don't know if that went to anywhere. I think it was left over.
Yeah,
It was
we
left in the ground.
surveyed that. There was an HDP pipe here that was, if you go out and look at the trench, you'll see a kind of waterfall over that. Even the surveyor said there's no known source. It goes like in this direction.
So when this was under construction, they had 2 temporary set basins on
Yes.
either side of that.
Oh.
With this pipe, I think, directed to the
Yeah.
downslope point, so it would fill up on one side.
And they
So
left
that
the pipe
pipe.
in the ground, right?
So I don't know, what do you just leave the pipe in the ground? Or
We were going to. We weren't planning on removing it. There's really no necessity.
So
They're just going to fill back over it, because if you remove the pipe and you start removing other portions of the pipe, they're usually 20-foot lengths. You
Okay.
start destabilizing other parts of the ground.
the shoulders of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's an electrical conduit that goes to the light that's kind of exposed in the tubes. Cover it back up.
Yeah, we notified the building commissioner about the conduit.
Okay.
They may slowly.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate your efforts on this, because
Yeah.
we
Thank you. Yeah, this-
looked at this, when we went out there, it's a bit overwhelming to where is this coming from? I'm glad you found the answer to that.
Yeah.
This is very significant.
Yeah,
Well, I think
diverting
it's-
away from it, but the big thing was that silt fence underneath that grate. That just, it wasn't working. If it would fill up instantly, and then where's all the water?
I think it also explains a number of the turbid conditions that we saw in the
Well,
Patagonia
that's
down
what I was
by-
wondering too.
behind Stop and Shop and
Mhm.
at that location, and although it wasn't state necessarily this project, it was probably this.
Mhm.
Well, we do have, and we put that on the plan too, because the river from this point where the sand plume is about still 160 feet away to the left. So, and this is the limits of the plume. So I don't think a lot of sediment, maybe some very small amount of fine sediment made it there.
I don't know.
This road is still gravel and has some fines on it too, so that potentially could make it in there. But the plume that we found, we still have another 160 feet to the river.
I walked it all up behind 112.6 on the other side of the highway, and it was clear, it was crystal clear, it was beautiful. So I'm like, where is this material? I could not find it. The only thing that Deep had said that they did an inspection and picked up some, they had a little bit of breach, and it was down by a fish ladder,
Yeah.
where all those sandbags were. And so I don't know if that, but I've seen multiple incidences at the bridge on the District Park Road looking at turbid water, but I haven't been able to figure out where the source is.
When we were getting all that rain this spring, and this is what engineers do, is drive by and look at the construction of the highway, right? So, I did notice north of the highway that a lot of those set basins that they have, they were just overwhelmed. They just couldn't handle the volume of water. So that's, I bet you that's where it came from. And that's a lot of fine material. But here, like I said, we have 160 feet through the woods.
So it's less likely that Kansas.
It's less likely that any significant amount came from this. And plus, even with this trench, I was surprised to see that it was less than 150 cubic yards, because that's only like 7 dumpsters. It's not a huge amount of material. So we calculated it, we recalculated, but if you do the math, 275 feet times like 4 feet wide, you get 1,450 square feet, and its average depth is, you're only at 100 yards, 120 yards of material, so it's not a huge amount, but it definitely needs to be repaired. They do have that caution tape around it just to prevent anybody from falling into it. And we have this plan in place. So once this is finalized and Gary signs off on it, then we can actually do the work.
Very good, thank you.
Coordinate, have a copy.
Awesome. You want a copy of this one?
I can take that one.
We actually struggled to find plans from the original construction that actually had the flagged wetlands on it. And I went back to a 2013 file that I had because we were asked to do some of the early ENS on the early phase. And we got a plan that actually had the flagged wetlands. The owner couldn't produce it. Gary couldn't find it, right?
Well, I couldn't get the find an as-built that had all the grading, that had all the buildings.
Yep. Yeah, we had everything on the buildings and the road.
As-built with the grading, so I'm not sure where that is at necessarily, but we have all the proposed plans, which show the delineated wetlands and all the proposed grading. Existing, what was existing.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thank you.
All right, next we have 8 Brookfield Drive, Assessors Map 41.3, Lot 100, East Lyme, Connecticut, Plum and Andia Licolari.
So this
Application was withdrawn.
application was withdrawn, so the order still stands. I guess the question here is, and I think we want them to put back any vegetation until such time as they come back. And we want some shade trees over that stream.
Yes,
Yes.
cleared it.
Alright, so I'll send them correspondence with the whole,
Okay. Next.
9 Rockwood Drive,
Mhm.
I still gotta contact Mr. Van Wagner, let him know he needs to install trees.
Okay.
That is something I still have to do. Spring Glen Road, that was the driveway. I took a look at that. I think that their driveway has been in this condition for quite some time. So I don't necessarily know that it probably was a violation, but it's, the current condition has been existing. So I don't necessarily think it's necessarily worth pursuing and saying, hey, you need to go get a permit for this. 'Cause
What is this one?
this is 15 Spring Glen Road.
And I'm sorry, what was the issue?
It looked like they had extended their driveway.
Oh.
And as a result, it encroaches upon, there's a stream behind the homes there, that whole neighborhood, the two boat roads behind the two properties, there's a little water course that runs between them. So I just saw they had cars parked at the end of the driveway, and then I took a closer look, it looked, okay, it was clearly extended.
Mm-hmm.
It's, then when I really looked at the slopes and everything around it, it's been in this condition for several years. It's got, moss on them. 2x4, 4x4 homes. So it's like going after something that's been in existence and may not have been the existing owner who did it.
Mhm.
So I think it would just look like there might have been some debris and other items that were on the zoning issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If it were to come to that. So I think we can take that off our list of enforcement.
Okay.
137 Flanders Road, he has backfilled his trench around his house. I'm still keeping an eye on it because we graded the area, needs to be both graded and seeded. Everything's kind of still open, and if you drive by,
It's a mess.
it's a mess. And he's right up against that stream,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so material hasn't entered the stream, and there's a little bit of vegetation, but it's only about a foot wide.
Mhm.
So, I will try to get him to get that at least contained. I'm gonna highly recommend that he get some winter rye down, with some topsoil, and at least get winter rye. Like, have something for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
It is flat, although it's at the bottom of a slope, which is wooded, technically, wood slope. But nonetheless, there could be potential for some ENS there. So thankfully it's been dry in that regard. So hopefully before it rains, the snow flies, we'll get him to stabilize the set a little better. I would like to see him put his silt fence up alongside that for the water.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The drainage ditch or as, I think it's a water course. 249 Old Black Point Road. Apparently I dropped the ball a little bit there. Mr. Ed Wenke, PE, is representing the landowner, and I was meant to send him copies of the approved permit and the file, the plans. I finally got that over to him last week, so he's working on a plan to restore the wetland.
What happened? The this one?
So this was,
Some lawn. They
yeah,
filled
so
in
this
the
is an area we issued a permit for complete home, demo, rebuild, pool, landscaping. It was quite extensive. They redid their retaining wall, they removed phragmites, and in the backyard there was this isolated pocket, or wetland pocket, which they basically enhanced. And it was great. They sold the house, and the new owner filled it in. And did a lot.
Is it like
Filled in.
in the,
Filled in.
like if you're looking at the property, like in the corner, like I could see like a discoloration in the lawn. Is that, I don't know.
I don't know if I think the materials were put in the packet.
It's alright.
Try to lie and see it. Anyway, it's just I can get you a copy of the plan.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm good to go. I told you that, so if you want it, yeah.
It's fine. I'm good.
And then Little Indian Pond, we just reviewed that on there. I don't think anyone's really happy with it. They run the, it looks like there's some fake swans.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
They don't move their heads.
I looked at like, that can't be real. Is it?
I think it's not moving.
Okay.
There are fake swans. There was a bird sitting on top of the fake swan today. So it wasn't really working too well.
So what are the swans for?
I'm not sure.
They're supposed to frighten away other geese and
Oh,
ducks.
geese? Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, there's some of those out there too.
The lights were.
Yeah, but there was a swan floating in the pond.
So Phyllis is noting that they put lights in the lower pond over the guy's neck, and they do work.
They do work.
I think what I heard though is that the geese now no longer use the pond, but they go to the water and the beach.
It's hard to win. It really is.
But there's a special grass, I know everybody wants to get on, that they use in New York, in the airports, and they found that it works. It's turf grass, some type of turf
Oh, yeah.
grass that you can install in your yard, in your lawn, and it does work.
Interesting.
Mm.
All right, on that note, do we hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.